the return be magic, or will it be devastating for Conor McGregor this weekend versus a fighter he beat previously in Max Holloway? Obviously, a massive gap between the two fights in time and experience of both fighters, and really McGregor and Holloway coming near enough to the end of their careers, getting to that later stage of their careers, and now coming to face each other again. Obviously, Max Holloway recently has been massively more active than McGregor has been. Obviously, McGregor having 5 years out at current post his third fight. Obviously, he had one fight really early on in his career against Poirier, and he had two subsequent fights, 2 and 3 later on in his career. Losing both the two latter ones, winning the early one in his career. But after that third fight, the latest one, he suffered quite a brutal leg injury, which, look, from to all who knew MMA and know that type of injury well enough to know, other fighters who you've seen it happen to, very tough to come back from post that. And look, really being 5 years out of the cage, sort of started to go a bit more towards McGregor would never return, and that's totally what I believe, but has returned now, will return this weekend against Holloway as the main event on UFC 328. The weight class is obviously at welterweight, which is, really Conor McGregor had his best work at feather and lightweight. Featherweight was probably his best version. I would say lightweight, incredible in his day, but in a sense, the guys who got bigger, he did very well in lightweight, but featherweight was where he had a massive amount of time and wins and just incredible finishes. Now going up to welterweight. Look, welterweight isn't both their weight class I don't think they'd be best at just because of their size, but look, they're both not welterweight. So the fact is, McGregor's sort of going up from what he should be is a lightweight, to be honest, and that's what he sort of looks to be. Holloway definitely is a lightweight. I would say, he's actually been at featherweight a lot more recently than McGregor, but Holloway is a big guy, quite tall and stuff, so look, lightweight probably fits him as well, and he's had some good wins there recently as well, whereas McGregor obviously champion at lightweight, did incredibly well. Faced Khabib, did and I would say Khabib won easily, yes he did, but one of the best, he won a round against Khabib, and that is very lacking. I think there's only two people who faced Khabib in the UFC who's won a round, which is an incredible statistic. But look, McGregor tried his best. He did some good takedown defense, and on the feet, he's one of the best out there. And that power does not diminish. 5 years out, that power will still be there if he catches you right. I can see McGregor coming into this quite well early rounds, because in early rounds, what you've got to think, there's a 5-round fight. Holloway's going to have to sort of judge how good McGregor is coming into this, because he doesn't know. It's 5 years out. He could be looking like McGregor of old and seem to have that sort of speed and style before the Poirier fights and the 2 and 3. Or he could look even worse and actually going quite a bit earlier. But what you've got to realise there is Conor McGregor has always been a early finisher. He's always been the most dangerous at the start of fights. What, round 1, round 2. After that, he starts to become more, early days he was unbeatable. Round 1, 2, you've just got to try and survive them. But if you do, there is a good chance round 3, round 4. Start going to round 5, there's some great chances. Exactly what we saw against Nate Diaz back in the day, that he took him into deeper water than McGregor sort of had ever been taken before, and he showed what can happen. And Holloway, look, he can survive 5 rounds. He's done it recently against Gaethje. He showed Gaethje up and did very well for 5 rounds, and incredible knockout that no one will ever forget post that UFC. After that point to the middle of the ring in that fight and knocked him out. Incredible. Character, of course, but to also that to happen in to manifest it in one. You're up in rounds and go, now I'm pointing to the middle. Who goes down first is incredible from Holloway. And clearly done 5 rounds well. Gaethje's no slouch. Now current lightweight champion, where he's beat Ilia Topuria, who seemed to be a guy who wasn't going to get defeated until maybe he faced Makachev, and that was a good super fight for both of them. It's incredible. This fight will put. It sort of seemed like whoever loses, it's quite a diminishing fight. Yes, it is, but I think if any of them put on a good show, if McGregor puts on a sort of a decent showing, and loses, I think he's still got fights in him. I think if Holloway wins, or even if he does well, loses the decision, or shows a good amount of work, look, I don't think it hurts much either, because the whole fabric of this division has been teared up, because Holloway's beat Gaethje before, very decisively. He did incredibly well in that 5 rounds. So if McGregor beats Holloway, does that not maybe put him into the title picture? Look, it's one company. There's no governing body saying mandatories, etc. Half of it, I would say, is based upon how many tickets you can sell, how big of a fight it is. And look, McGregor's the biggest star in the UFC still to this day. And so if he does well and beats Holloway, I'd say 99% sure he gets an option for a championship fight versus Gaethje next. I'm very sure of that, because it'll be the UFC leaving a hell of a lot of money on the table if they don't go for that, especially with Topuria likely being out for a massive amount of time after his injuries. I can't see him coming back anytime soon. Gaethje's definitely going to come back sooner than Topuria, and that is a fight where you could offer both massive money to make it happen. And with Gaethje being near the end of his career, a massive payday against one of the biggest stars in the UFC, even if that's the round up of his career, win or lose, it's incredibly inviting for a fighter like that at the time. The point where he's looking at one, maybe 2 more fights before he hangs it up. But I think going back to this fight, I think Holloway's activeness and how good he's been, and yes, he's lost, but I think he's done incredibly well in fights. I think he's been active. He's been living the life correctly. McGregor, yes, he's had that leg break. He's come back and he's in training. Obviously, can fight. But how much wear has all this, external behaviour caused on McGregor? How many miles does that put on the clock? Because he hasn't been living the life correctly. He's been partying a lot. He's been, on live streams, you could see he's not been living the life of a fighter that a fighter should be. He's been obviously drinking. He's been, he's been everywhere. He hasn't been clearly dedicated to the gym. And after getting on in years, having a leg break like that, and now coming back in the ring 5 years later, I think that's tough. I think that's very, very tough to go, look, I'm very focused right now, but I haven't been focused for, yes, I had a leg break, but post that, at least 2-3 years, he hasn't been focused where he could have been. And that's part of the problem. I think this is just a bit of you've left it too long. I think 37 years old, McGregor, I think it's a struggle. He's going to struggle with the pace Holloway can keep. And yes, he 100% will be dangerous round 1. We will see some things where you go, I can see old McGregor there. But I think it then turns quickly sad to go, he has lost a step though. And he has lost a step. And before you thought he got tired early, post round 1 or 2, you used to go, oh, he's slowed down. He's human now. He's actually looking worse for wear. That's going to be even more dramatic this time out, I think. I think that's definitely it. I think McGregor's going to show how, he's 37 years old at a weight class where he was a featherweight. He's not built to be a massive guy. He's built for speed, and speed goes real quick, especially when you've had a leg break, and especially when you haven't been living life in the gym. And thirdly, you're 37 years old. I think it becomes a real issue in this fight. I think that's the biggest problem. I think that's the most defining factor you'll see, is that McGregor will slow down ever so quickly. and secondly, you'll see he's lost a step. I think even in round maybe 2, you see, this just isn't the standard McGregor we saw, the standard level of even against Poirier in the third fight or the second fight even. So I think Holloway gets the TKO KO. I think round 1, round 2, I think McGregor could win either. I think he definitely wins round 1. He could win round 2. But I think very quickly post that, you start seeing a massive diminishment in ability. And I don't think he has Holloway massively hurt round 1 or 2. I think he can get stuff off. But I think Holloway's just sort of feeling him out round 1. Yeah, you can win a round. Round 2, I think Holloway starts coming a bit back into it. But McGregor's still firing off shots. But then he starts seeing the slowing down in the end of the second round. Round 3, getting combos off, getting in boxing range. And then I can see in round 4 getting the KO TKO quite quickly. So let me know what you think in the comments down below of that. I'm just going to talk quickly around the rest, a couple fights on the main card, the rest of the card. So you obviously got Paddy Pimblett facing Saint Denis. A showing Paddy could really use here. Saint Denis is, I think his stock for me personally is very high. If Paddy gets a win there, that's a big name on the old history, and really would push his negotiation with the UFC to go, look, I am a big star, and I've got that fight I've got a win against Saint Denis, who people aren't really looking to fight, and he does have some good wins. Hopefully that pushes him up, and look, he could gets this fight done, wins it, gets another fight, probably slightly higher in the rankings next, then that's probably when you're looking at Tapia is likely going to be coming back at some point soon. Post that, you could easily make a Paddy Tapia fight. Okay, yes, he may not be champion. Tapia will be looking to get a championship fight straight away, I would say. But it depends. Paddy could then be going for a title shot quite close post that. So look, if Tapia takes a bit longer, then you could very much see a fight where you thought Tapia was way out the realms of going in for a Paddy Pimblett fight, because actually Paddy lost against Gaethje, Tapia was going up to be, became champion. You suddenly go, actually, this fight could actually close up and become very possible in the near future. So, look, Saint Denis is a tough operator, though. Very tough. This will really show how tough Paddy is and if he can really reach that championship level. Because if you can't do it here, I don't see it happening. I get really concerned with Paddy that he's in love with his stand-up. He loves to stand up. He doesn't want to go to the ground. But look, combined in both for Paddy can make him a real top-level fighter. And I think that's what he needs to show. He needs to show he's willing to mix it up, because I think that's been a lackluster showing, because when he has been on the ground, he's looked pretty decent. And I think he needs to show it. I think that's exactly what he needs to do, because his striking isn't as tight as what it needs to be. His chin is up in the air. He's ready for the taking at some points, and that's always been the concern that I've had with Paddy. But let's see in this fight, is he there for the taking? Because if he is, there's been enough camps now to sort this out and to start focusing on getting the striking tightened up and the chin tucked and things. But if it's not here, look, I can really see he's met his level. That's his level in the UFC now. So I think it's a real tester. It's a real final tester for Paddy to go, where are you really going to get to in this sport at lightweight? Because I think there's just there's just incredible fighters above that, and they will beat him if he's not good enough to beat Saint Denis. If he hasn't improved to get to this fight, he hasn't improved some of his, especially stand-up. The tightness of his stand-up, the guard, the striking, is just very loose, and loose is good up to a point, but when you're getting dropped and your chin's up, it becomes a real problem. So let's see in this fight. I say Paddy does it, but I think it's in a way where you go, this is sort of your level though. You're getting very close here. It's going to be a real struggle getting any further, but let's see what happens. But look, I want Paddy to win. He's incredible for the sport. He's a superstar, and he can make big fights, and there's not many fighters around nowadays, and as I've said in multiple videos, that can do that in the UFC. On to the last fight I'll cover, but Sanhagen versus Batista. Sanhagen dynamic striker coming off a loss for he went for the championship challenge. He lost against Dvalishvili, and yeah, he's coming back. Dynamic striking, very long, very good striker, and I hope he wins. I think he should win this. But Batista's, I would put it, he's very good at nullifying with his clinch any sort of very good striking work. He can get in close clinch up and sort of nullify the fight a bit. And I think Sanhagen gets it done, but it could turn into a very boring fight just by clinching him up, making sure Sanhagen doesn't get any sort of powerful long range shots, and it could make it a very boring fight. But look, Sanhagen, he's dynamic enough to get Batista biting on some feints, biting on some movement, and get him out of there. I think it takes him round 2, early round 3 to get that done. But let's just see. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. What do you think on the McGregor return? Do you think it will be magic, or do you think it will be retirement talks? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.